Hello everyone, this is Dhruv from Edureka and I welcome you all to this session where I will be talking about projects in Google Cloud Platform. So without any further ado, let's take a look at today's agenda. So we will start this session by first having an overview of a project in Google Cloud Platform and understanding how to create and manage a project and what are the access control for a project. We will then move forward to understand how to move a project in a resource hierarchy and how to migrate projects between organizations. Finally, we will then see a demo of project governance on Google Cloud Platform. So first, let's understand what is a project in Google Cloud Platform. So a project in a Google Cloud Platform organizes all your resources. A project consists of a set of users, a set of APIs, and billing authentication and monitoring settings for those APIs. Like for example, all of your cloud storage buckets and objects along with user permissions for accessing them reside in a project. Let's now understand how to create and manage projects in Google Cloud Platform. Before we begin, keep in mind that in order to interact with Google Cloud resources, you must provide the identifying project information for every request. So the following are used to identify your project. First is a project name, which is a human readable name for your project. The project name isn't used by any Google APIs. You can edit the project name at any time during or after project creation. Project names do not need to be unique. Now the next one is a project ID, which is a customizable unique identifier for your project. So you can see this in the project name. My sample project is given, which is the project name. Then the second thing is project ID, which is a customizable unique identifier for your project. The project ID is a unique user assigned ID that can be used by Google APIs. If you do not specify a project ID during project creation, a project ID is assigned automatically. The project ID must be a unique string of 6 to 30 lowercase letters, digits, or hyphens. It must start with a letter and cannot have a trailing hyphen. You cannot change a project ID once it has been created. You cannot reuse a project ID that is in use or one that has been used for a deleted project. Some words are restricted from use in project IDs. If you see restricted words in the project name, such as Google or SSL, the generated project ID excludes these words. Now, the last one is a project number, which is an automatically generated unique identifier for your project. The project number and project ID are unique across Google Cloud. If another user owns a project ID for their project, you won't be able to use the same project ID. You can't reuse the project ID of a deleted project as well. So when you choose your project ID, don't include any sensitive information in your names. Like you can see here, the project ID is given as a my sample project 191923 and project number. This is just a for example I showed you project number that is also automatically assigned. Now let's get started with understanding how to create a project. This permission is included in the project creator, resource manager project creator role, which is granted by default to the entire domain of a new organization and to free trial users as well. If you do not specify the parent resource, a parent resource is selected automatically based on the user account's domain. You can create a new project using the Cloud Console, the Google Cloud command line tool, or the project create method also as well. So to create a new project, do follow these steps. Like go to the manage resource page in the Google Cloud Console. On the select organization drop down list at the top of the page, select the organization in which you want to create a project. If you are a free trial user, skip the step as this list does not appear. Then click create project. In the new project window that appears, enter a project name and select billing account as applicable. A project name can contain exclamation points and must be between 4 and 30 characters. Then enter the parent organization or folder in the location box. That resource will be the hierarchical parent of the new project. When you have finished entering new project details, click create. Also, you can create a project using a service account. You can use a service account to automate project creation, like user accounts, service accounts can be granted permission to create projects within an organization. And service accounts are not allowed to create projects outside of an organization and must specify parent resource when creating a project. Service accounts can create a new project using the gcloud tool or the projects.create method. So now let's understand how to manage a project. So the first step is to manage project quotas. So if you have fewer than 30 projects remaining in your quota, notification displays the number of projects remaining in your quota on the new project page. Once you have reached your project limit, to create more projects, you must request a project limit increase. Alternatively, you can schedule some projects to be deleted after 30 days on the manage resource page. Projects that users have soft deleted count against your quota. So these projects get fully deleted after 30 days only. Now the second thing is identifying projects. So to interact with the Google Cloud resources, you must provide the identifying project information for your request. A project is identified by its project ID and project number, as I have already explained you what is project ID and project number and how to get them. Also, you can get an existing project. You just have to go to the project list and choose your existing project. Then you can also go for listing projects, which can be done in two ways. That is, list all projects under a resource or search for a project. For managing the project, the updating of the projects can also be done. You can update projects using the Cloud Console or the projects.patch method. Currently, the only fields that can be updated are the project name and labels. You cannot change the project ID value that you use with the Google Cloud Command Line tool or API requests. Next thing is shutting down, or you can say deleting the projects. So you can shut down projects using the Cloud Console or the projects.delete method. A project must have a lifecycle state of active to be shut down in the way. This method immediately marks a project to be deleted. A notification email will be sent to user who initiated the delete operation in the technical category contracts that are listed in essential contacts. Project that is marked for deletion is not usable. If the project has a billing account associated with it, that association is broken and isn't restrained if the project delete operation is cancelled. After approximately 30 days, the project is fully deleted. At the end of the 30-day period, the project and all of its resources are deleted and cannot be recovered. Until it is deleted, the project counts towards your project quota. If you have set up billing for a project, it might not be completely deleted until the current billing cycle ends and your account is successfully charged. The number and types of services in use can also affect when the system permanently deletes a project. If the process to shut down a project fails, you can go for troubleshooting project deletion. Then the last thing in managing a project is restoring a project. Project owners can restore a deleted project within the 30-day recovery period that starts when the project is shut down. Restoring a project returns it to the state it was in before it was shut down. So some resources such as cloud storage or PubSub resources are deleted before the 30-day period ends and may not be fully recoverable. To restore a project using the Cloud Console, you just have to go to the Manage Resources in the Google Cloud Console, and in the project picker at the top of the page, select your organization. Below the list of organization folders and projects, click Resource Pending Deletion, and then check the box for the project you want to restore. Then click Just Restore. In the dialog that appears, confirm that you want to restore the project. Now that we have understood how to manage and create a project, let's understand how we can provide access control for projects using identity and access management. So Google Cloud offers identity and access management, which lets you give more granular access to specific Google Cloud resources and prevents unwanted access to other resources. So IAM lets you adopt the security principle of least privilege, so you grant only the necessary access to your resources. IAM lets you control who has what access to which resources by setting IAM policy, which grants specific roles that contain certain permissions. So the first thing in access control is permissions and roles. So to control access to resources, Google Cloud requires that accounts making API requests have appropriate IAM roles. IAM roles include permissions that allow users to perform specific actions on Google Cloud resources. For example, the resource manager organizations list permission allows a user to list the organizations they own, while resource manager projects delete allow a user to delete a project. You don't directly give users permission. Instead, you grant them roles which have one or more permissions bundled with them. You grant these roles on a particular resource, but they also apply to all of that resource's descendants in the resource array. So let's understand it briefly. So first is permissions. So to manage projects, the caller must have a role that includes these following permissions. The role is granted on the organization or folder that contains the projects. So you can see the method and required permissions for it. You can see for create permission, there is a resource manager projects create. You can see all these same, but you can see the third last one, which is resource manager projects test IAM permissions. That doesn't require any permission. Then there are user predefined roles as well. So IAM predefined roles allow you to carefully manage the set of permissions that your users have access to. The following table lists the predefined roles that you can use to grant access to a project. Each role includes a description of what the role does and the permissions included in that role. So you can see the role and the name for it, then also the description, you can see for role name project creator. You can see that it provides access to create new projects. Once a user creates a project, they are automatically granted the owner role for that project. Then you can see the permissions for it, the specific permission for it, like resource manager organizations.get to get the permissions. Similarly, for project deleter and project mover and project IAM admin, specific permissions are there, and you can like see the descriptions also for it. And then there are basic roles. These roles are very powerful and include a large amount of permissions across all Google Cloud services. Like you can see for owner, editor, and viewer, these are like, if you see in resource hierarchy, they are the highest roles. You can see like how for owner, all permissions for all resources are given. Then for editor, create and update access for all resources. And then with the viewer role, you can like get and list access for all resources. Also, like can create custom roles. So in addition to the predefined roles described in the topic, you also create custom roles that are collections of permissions that you tailor to your needs. Then the second thing in access control at the project level. So you can like grant roles to users at the project level using the Google Cloud Console, the Resource Manager API, and the Google Cloud Command Line tool. So there's a default role also, like when you create a project, you are granted the owner role for the project to provide you full control as the creator. This default role can be like changed as normal in an IAM policy as well. Then there are like VPC service controls. So VPC service controls can provide like additional security when using the resource manager API. So VPC service controls improves your ability to mitigate the risk of data exfiltration from Google Cloud services such as cloud storage and BigQuery. You can use VPC service control to create parameters that protect the resources and data of services that you explicitly specify. Now let's move on to understand how to move a project within the resource hierarchy. So the project resource is the base level organizing entity in a Google Cloud organization. Projects are created under organizations and can be placed under folders of the organization resource itself, forming the resource hierarchy. You can move project resources within your resource hierarchy, but should consider the policy implications of the move before you make it. So when you move a project, any identity and access management policies or organization policies that are directly attached will move with it. However, a project in your resource hierarchy is also affected by the policies that it inherits from parent resources. So if a project inherits an IAM role that provides user permissions to use a particular service, users will not have access to that service at the destination unless it would inherit the permission at the destination as well. So like for example, consider a service account has the storage object creator role bound to a user or a folder. You can consider the folder as folder A. So the service account has permissions to upload data to cloud storage in any project in folder A. If you move one of these projects to folder B, which does not have the same inherited permission, the service account for that project loses the ability to upload data, resulting in a service outage. These same considerations apply if organization policies are defined at the source and destination folders. Like IAM policies, organization policies are inherited. Consequently, you must ensure that your organization policies are consistent between source and destination folders. To move a project, you need the following IAM roles, like having the resource manager.projects update permission on the project, which typically comes from having either the project editor or project owner roles on the project. So the second permission is have the resource manager project move permission on both the source folder and the destination folder. This permission is typically part of the project owner, project editor, or folder admin or folder mover roles. If the resource is not in a folder, you will need the permission on organization node. You can follow these steps to move a project. So in the Google Cloud Console, go to the Manage Resource page. Select your organization from the organization drop down on the top left of the page. Third is the click on your projects row to select your project role from the list of resources. Note that you must not click on the name of the project, which takes you to the project's IAM page. Then next you have to click on the options menu in the row and click move. Then click browse to select the folder to which you want to move the project, and then finally click move. Now that you have understood how to move a project, let's now understand how to migrate a project between organizations. We will understand it quite briefly. So the project resource is the base level organizing entity in a Google Cloud organization. Projects are created under organizations and can be placed under folders or the organization resource itself. Forming the resource hierarchy, you may need to migrate projects between organizations due to acquisitions, regulatory requirements, and separation between business units, among other things. You can use the resource manager API to move projects across organizations or to another place in the resource hierarchy of its current organization. The resource manager API also lets you roll back the migration, moving the project back to its original place in the resource hierarchy. Note that it generally takes less than a minute for the project move to complete. After moving a project, it may take several minutes to reflect this change in the Google Cloud Console. So in migrating projects, first we need to create a migration plan. So the most important thing to consider during a project move is how the migration will impact the services running inside the project. The Resource Manager API treats the project resource and all services running underneath it as a single unit, meaning that no configuration changes will be applied inside the project. While migration will not make direct configuration changes to the project, the change in the resource hierarchy is likely to have an impact on the function of the project and its running services. Inherited policies such as identity and access management or organization policies will not move with the project during migration. While migration will not make direct configuration changes to the project, change in the resource hierarchy is likely to have an impact on the function of the project and its running services. So, inherited policies such as identity and access management or organization policies will not move with the project during migration. Only policies and serve accounts that are attached directly to the resource. This may cause unintended behavior after the migration is complete. So the second thing in creating a migration plan is verification of policy. So when you migrate a project, it will no longer inherit the policies from its current place in the resource hierarchy and will be subject to the effective policy evaluation at its destination. So we recommend making sure that the effective policies at the project's destination match as much as possible the policies that the project had in its source location. So any policy that is applied directly to the project will still be attached after the migration is complete. So applying policies directly to the project is a good way to verify that the correct policies are applied from the moment the move is complete. Identity and access management policies and organization policies are inherited through the resource hierarchy and can block a service from functioning if not set properly. Determine the effective policy at the project's destination in your resource hierarchy to ensure the policy aligns with your governance objectives. So the third thing is manage encrypted keys. So you should verify if your project has a customer managed encrypted key or other cloud key management service enabled on it. Cryptographic keys are owned by the project, and a user with owner access to that project will therefore be able to manage and perform cryptographic operations on keys in cloud KMS in that project. I mean. Now the next thing is the preview features. So you can enable preview features on organizations, folders, or projects. If you have enabled an alpha or beta feature on the project to be moved, this feature should continue to function after the migration. If the preview feature is private and not allow listed for the destination organization, you will not be able to make any configuration changes after the move is complete. Now the next thing is the rollback plan. So if you discover that something is not working on any of the projects you have migrated, you can move them back to their original location. In order to do that, you need to have the necessary IAM permissions and set the required organization policies so that you can run the project migration in reverse. Now the last thing is the dedicated import and export folders. So policy inheritance can cause unintended effects when you are migrating a project both in the source and destination organizations. You can mitigate this risk by creating specific folders to hold any projects for export and import and ensuring that the same policies are inherited by the folders in both organizations. You can also set permissions on these folders that will be inherited to the projects moved within them, helping to accelerate the project migration process. When planning a migration, consider setting up a dedicated source folder first. To do this, create a folder for each organization to which you plan to export projects, then set an organization policy on the folders, each with the constraints or resource manager allowed export destination constraint set to the single organization to which you want to export projects. After you have completed your project migration, you should remove these dedicated folders as well. So after creating a migration plan, assign permissions as well. Note that when assigning permissions related to a cross-organization migration, you must designate the roles on the same member email address in both the source and the destination organizations. You need the following permissions to move a project between organizations. Like to gain these permissions, ask your administrator to grant the suggested role at the appropriate level of the resource hierarchy. So the first is project move permission. So on the project resource that you want to move and its parent resource, you need the project mover role. Or another role that includes the following permissions are the V1 Resource Manager API. So the permissions required for the resource you are moving are like resource manager.projects.update. And for permission required for the parent resource will be resource manager.project.move. So on the destination resource, the permission you need to depend on the resource to which you are moving the project. If the destination resource is a folder, you need the project mover role or another role that includes the resource manager project move permission. If the destination resource is an organization, you need the project creator role or another role that includes the resource manager project create permission. Now the second thing is organization policy permissions. So on the source and destination organizations, you must have the roles organization policy admin role, which grants permission to create and manage organization policies. Now after assigning permissions, you need to configure organization policies as well. To move a project resource to a new organization, you must first apply an organization policy that will define the organization to which the project can be moved. You must also set an organization policy in the destination that defines the organizations from which projects can be imported. Note that if you do not set the following organization policies, the migration will result in a failed precondition error. On the parent resource to the project you want to move, set an organization policy that includes the constraints or like resource manager, allowed import export destination constraint. This will define the target destination as a valid location to which you can migrate the project. On the destination resource, set an organization policy that includes the constraints like the resource manager, allowed import sources constraint. This will define the source as a valid location from which you can migrate your project. So on the destination resource, set an organization policy that includes the constraints resource manager allowed import source constraint. This will define the source as a valid location from which you can migrate your project. Note that whether you are using dedicated import and export folders or not, it is a good practice to remove these organization policies after you are done moving projects across organizations. You can enforce them again if you need to perform another project migration. So the first thing while configuration organization policies is change the billing account for a project. So cloud billing account can be used across organizations. Moving a project from one organization to another won't impact billing, and charges will continue against the old billing account. However, organization moves often also include a requirement to move to a new billing account. To change the billing account for an existing project, you must have the owner role on the project and the billing admin role on the destination billing account. To change the billing account, go to the billing page in the Cloud Console, click the name of the billing account you want to change, and under projects linked to this billing account, find the name of the project to move, and then click the menu button to the right. Then click change billing, and then select the new billing account, then click set account. Follow these steps and you can change the billing account for a project. Charges already incurred that have not yet been reported in the transaction history will be billed in the former billing account. This can include charges from up to 2 days prior to when the project was moved. Also, you can move a billing account between organizations. So a billing account can be moved from one organization to another, although this isn't often a necessary step. Most existing organizations will already have a billing account that should be used instead. If you need to migrate an existing billing account, get the billing admin role on the source and destination organizations. Then go to the billing page in the Cloud Console. Click on the name of the billing account you want to move. At the top of the account management page, click change organization. Then select the destination organization and then click OK. The billing account is now associated with the specific organizations. Note if you move a billing account that has active Google Cloud Marketplace subscriptions, those subscriptions are automatically cancelled. Then the last step in migrating a project is perform the migration, of course. So if you have the appropriate IAM permissions and the required organization policies are enforced, you can use the resource manager API to move a project resource. So the following instructions are only for migrating a project from one organization to another. Like to migrate a project under an organization, run the following command. This you can see like G-Cloud beta projects, this one. Then you can also specify a folder as the target resource with the following command. So where it will happen? So you need to understand the project ID for that. Like project ID is the ID or number of the project you wish to migrate. And then there's organization ID, which is the ID of the organization to which you want to move the project. You can only specify one target, either an organization or a folder. And then there is folder ID, which is the ID of the folder to which you want to move the project. You can only specify one target, either a folder or an organization. Also, you can roll back a migration. So if you have mistakenly moved a project, you can roll back the operation by performing the move again with the old source as the new destination and the old destination as the new source. You must have the necessary IAM permissions and organization policies enforced to allow this as if this were an entirely new migration. So now that you have a theoretical understanding of projects in GCP, let's now see how it's been made practically by trying our hands on it on Google Cloud Platform. You can just directly go to Google Cloud Platform console. So this is how the Google Cloud Platform console looks like. So if you don't have an account on Google Cloud Platform, create one. It's a very good platform to have an account on. While making the account, it will ask for your credit and debit card details. It will just deduct 1 rupee and that will also be refunded soon.
So here you can see like the project name, project ID, and project number is given. Dashboard only. That's how the dashboard looks like. So, and you just have to go here. This is from here you can choose your project. Like I have created number of projects. You can also like go and create a new project from here. Just give the project name. You can give it like my project test. So you can see the project ID is getting created with this, the name and then this number. It cannot be changed later. Okay. Then you can also choose your organization. If you are using a free account and you don't have an organization, then you can choose no organization also and create a billing account like this, or you can just simply choose the organization. I will choose it from here. So I will just create it. It will take a few minutes, one few minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah. So you can see like it got created. I will just select this project. So now you can see like the project name, my project test, project ID, and project number. Everything is given here. That's how easy it is to create a project in Google Cloud Platform. And from by making this project, now you can like use all its services. Like you can see, you have the access to use Compute Engine, Kubernetes Engine, storage services also, database services also, application integration as well. All these services you can use once you create a project. Under the project, you get the access to use these services. If you want to delete the project, you can just go to this settings, go to the project settings. You can see you can like choose the project name. This one only we have created, so we will just delete this project. We just have to shut down for that. We just have to type the name for it. So project ID with this. Okay, to shut down project. You just have to type the project ID. So this is the project ID. I'll just copy it from here, just paste it here, and shut down. So as I've told you, like it takes at least 1 month to get the project shut down. So you can see today is like 22 July. So by 21st August, it will get shut down. That's how it's been shut down. Now you can see my project test is does not exist here anymore, right? So I hope you have understood how to create a project and how to delete the project in Google Cloud Platform. These are the concepts of Google Cloud Platform projects. So with this, we come to the end of today's session of projects in Google Cloud Platform. I hope you had a great time learning and understanding about it. And if you have any queries, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you.